Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about heart rate variability. So heart rate variability is the variability of the heart rate throughout the day. This is very normal. It happens in everybody. It is under the control of the parasympathetic nervous system or the vagus nerve. In general, the greater your heart rate can vary is a marker of health. And this is because it translates into an adaptable system, meaning that if you are exposed to a stress, your system has the capacity to change its heart rate quickly and appropriately and then return back to normal energy conservation and resting parasympathetic tone pretty quickly. One of the areas where heart rate variability is particularly important is during sleep. So when you go to sleep at night, the autonomic nervous system function increases, in particular the parasympathetic tone or the heart rate variability. And I've already explained in another video that parasympathetic tone is involved in energy conservation through metabolic processes. So if you have a high parasympathetic tone overnight, then you are going to have far greater restorative sleep than if you don't. And one of the most commonly reported symptoms in patients with conditions such as chronic fatigue syndrome and long COVID is unrefreshing sleep. And in chronic fatigue patients, it has been demonstrated that the parasympathetic function does not adequately increase during sleep. So this may well explain why sleep is so unrefreshing. So I wouldn't be advocating or suggesting that you become extremely focused upon what your heart rate variability is all the time, because that'll end up being frustrating because the heart rate changes so much throughout the day. I've also previously said that during exercise your sympathetic tone will increase, and following exercise you will then recover, and during that recovery period your parasympathetic tone is increasing. Now, the duration of time it takes to recover will vary from person to person. For those who engage in regular exercise, they will recover much faster than for those who don't. Now, that's okay, and that's just life, and people engage in the amount of exercise that they have the time for, which is perfectly fine. But it can become a bit of an issue in certain chronic illnesses such as chronic fatigue and in patients with long COVID, because if you have a longer recovery time and you're not aware that you have a longer recovery time and you engage in exercise during the recovery time, you may actually end up having quite a negative experience of the exercise, which is not something that is very helpful, because it's then going to put you off exercising again. Now, you may know how you've recovered in terms of how you're feeling, but sometimes you might feel tired all the time and it's a little bit more difficult to know, should you exercise or not? And if you exercise, are you going to end up making yourself feel worse? So you can actually measure your own heart rate variability on a daily basis. It's very simple and straightforward, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. And I'll put details in the description below. There are plenty of smartphone apps that measure heart rate variability. So once you are comfortable with the concept, it really doesn't matter which app you choose to use. The one that I have used in the past is a HRV4 training app. And I'm going to open it up and show you now. But essentially what you do is at the same time every day, preferably in the morning and in the same position, you will open up the app and you put your finger on the camera part of your phone. You press the measure button and then you breathe as normal for a minute, and then it will give you a number. So I'm going to quickly open that up and just see if I can show. So that's what, I'm not sure how well that's coming through, but that's what the page looks like. So I'm going to press the measure button there. And I'm going to put my fingers on the camera part, and you'll see it's picking up the signal. Here we go. And then once it's happy with the signal, it counts down the minute. I'm not going to do that now. And it'll be measuring your heart rate, and you breathe as normal. Okay, so that's how it does it. And then when it's finished calculating, when it's finished the minute of the heart rate variability test, it'll then ask you if you're happy to continue, and then you'll say yes. And then it'll bring you to a questionnaire, and that's just to see how you're feeling. It'll ask you questions like if you have any ongoing symptoms, or if you had how you slept the night before, what exercise you did the day before, if you had alcohol the day before, if you have any injuries, and if you have any other symptoms to report. And then on the next page, it'll calculate the number. Now, I wouldn't really worry what the number is. It's just about a range. So then over about 4 days to a week, it'll begin to learn what is normal for you. So then the idea being that you would get up in the morning, you would measure the heart rate variability, and if it was within your range and you were feeling otherwise okay, that will be the day to engage in the exercise bout that may be on the exercise prescription that you've already discussed with your doctor. And then on days where it's below the range or above the range, it may suggest that that's a day that it might be more appropriate to take it easy and do perhaps a light walk or a light intensity exercise. Obviously, as you get to use it, you'll see there may be days on end it's telling you that you shouldn't exercise. That can be a little bit more challenging, but in general, the rule of thumb would be to not go more than 2 days without exercise. It's really just to give an added layer of reassurance in terms of the recovery process from exercise. And my advice is that you could look at the various apps that are on the market, see which one works for you, and maybe do a trial for a week or two and see if it's something that kind of fits into your life and that makes sense to you and is helpful for your exercise.